Welcome to Living a Graceful Life. I'm Denise Medved, your host, and I'm also the creator and founder of the Ageless Grace Brain Health Program that is in 31 countries and all 50 US states, helping people to be able to do movements that affect all 5 major functions of their brain. So, the purpose of this show, Living a Graceful Life, is to remind you all that it's never too late to begin to make choices to create the life that you want to live. So that makes me very excited to have our guest here tonight because we're going to be talking about restoring choice to your authentic life and living big at 60 plus. And this is Laura Olinger. So
Hi.
nice to have you.
It's so great to talk with you. It's so great to reconnect with you. I realize we've known each other now for 11 years and, we kind of ease in and out of each other's spheres, and it's just really exciting to be here tonight.
Well, I'm so happy to have you. And I want to tell everyone a little bit about Laura before we begin. She teaches a variety of fitness and educational wellness programs in Boulder, Colorado, where I have been to visit her, and it's a beautiful place. She's also a GEOTran practitioner. She'll tell us more about that, and a Gyms of Excellence instructor, and she'll tell us more about that. Her classes and programs are available virtually and in person. She combines her love of movement, music, science, and humor into All Vintage Moves program, which is her company and her program. And they're built on the philosophy that we can always be getting better. With a Bachelor of Science in Environmental Health and Health Physics, which includes a strong foundation in the biological sciences, biochemistry, physics, and anatomy physiology, Laura brings a scientific understanding to research that applies to health and well-being. New advances in neuroscience and GEOTran intersect for a rich opportunity to support vitality and longevity, two things that everyone listening to and watching this show want to know more about. Laura also enjoys spending time with her adult daughters, adventures with her husband, and the comfort of home with her dogs and great coffee. So, welcome, Laura. Again,
Thank
we're so
you.
happy to have you.
Thank you.
Well, my first question right away is living big at 60 plus. You've added a subhead to that, a subtitle called Restoring Choice to Your Authentic Life. So, don't we all have choice? Why does it need to be restored?
Great question. So long before I met you, I actually met a woman named Dorothy SBO, and Dorothy wanted to be remembered as being the person who gave us our choice back. And what Dorothy knew and what she discovered in working with people is that we theoretically have choice, and yet our experiences in life, our belief systems, our relationships that didn't quite work, the different things that we encounter in life, we often limit our choices. And there's often stress that's related with those limitations. So some sort of a charge on it, right? And so we really don't have choice. It's kind of like living inside of a box. And I experienced as I worked more and more, I worked with you and was working a lot with Ageless Grace. What I experienced in working with the population I was working with was a limitation of choice, and many people kind of sliding or gliding through those older years rather than charging and going for it and enjoying it and being vital and really vigorous during those older years. So having studied both the movement and with Dorothy, I was like, they've lost their choice. And often they've lost their choice as a function of losing their voice, their ability to speak up for themselves and say, hey, I don't want to do it that way. I want to do it this way. Or I need help, asking for help. How often, how resistant many of them were to say, hey, can you help me with this? Or the cultural message of, as you age, this, and this are going to happen. your hearing is going to decline, your balance is going to decline. And you set me on this path to look at this, what are the capabilities instead of the inability, and the capabilities rather than the inabilities. What can we improve upon and focus on those things? So getting people back in choice offers them the opportunity then to speak their voice, which I find really important in people's family relationships as the aging process goes. Do you stay at home? Do you go into a CCRC? Do you need someone to come into the home? And so what tends to get people into trouble is when their choice is violated
Absolutely.
by another family member, by a spouse, by children, by the place where they're living, like all different variations of that. The other thing, Denise, just to reflect on choice, in your book, your Ageless Grace book, you talk about the barriers to exercise. And in the starting to do this work, I can't tell you how many times I was working with people on, well, I can't because I can't, and I can't because. And often it was something as simple as, I don't have the right clothes to wear. Okay, let's go shopping, like
Right.
it's so simple. And yeah, so that's really the choice piece is, and
Right.
often we don't realize that we don't have choice. It's just the way our life is, right? I talked with a woman recently who takes a lot of my classes. She said, well, I'll never get over this. I'm like, but what if you could get over it? It was a big event that had happened to her family. It was significant. It was large. And you don't have to live with the stressors on your life. Medical research is now saying that 90% of diagnoses are attributed to stress.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so those stressors are what constrict our choice.
Absolutely, you're so right. And you're right. I've encountered the same thing working with older adults, especially. I mean, we hear that in all ages, oh, I can't do this because, or I get, and sometimes it's even things like, my doctor told me when I had a TIA not to do this and this and this. And I go, oh, when did you have your TIA? 14 years ago.
Oh, I know. Isn't that
I'm
one of
like,
your favorites?
what? Like what? That he meant like right now, recent, like
Right.
right after your TIA. He didn't mean the rest of your life. Don't move.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
it's
So
fascinating.
yeah, in the GEOTran work that I do in the Gems of Excellence, what we see is people will have a timeline. They'll have a timeline of stressors. It's kind of like, well, what's a timeline? It's a series of similar events along your life to which you had a similar reaction, right? You can track the timeline by the sensations you had in your body in different situations and circumstances that you could say that's just how I am, or that's part of my personality, or I'll always be, leaning towards anger or frustration in those kinds of circumstances. But we can actually trace that back to the first one and de-stress it and de-stress the whole timeline. And it's life-changing. It's really life-changing.
It's fascinating. And I think it's really powerful that you have a whole palette of things that you offer in your Vintage Moves program, the Gems of Excellence and the GEOTran that you've added to your already full plate of different kinds of movement and exercise. Tell us a little bit about why you added so many things, choices.
Yeah. I love seeing working with people who want to move and want to make progress. And so many different kinds of people with different circumstances, different diagnoses, different life patterns, like different neuroplasticity in their bodies would show up in my classes. So in terms of the physical movement, I think I was always looking for having myself be as knowledgeable as possible so that I can really provide valuable feedback to people, provide valuable tools so that they can continue to get better. At the very focus of what I do, I want to be working with people who are committed to making progress, whether that's in their physical movement, their enjoyment in life, their happiness, their fun, their travel. So I work with people who want to set goals and work on getting there. Now, work in my sense of the term is really more fun, right? It has to be fun or you're not going to do it. And I actually started doing the GEOTran work way before I met you. I met Dorothy probably 24, 25 years ago. And I spoke about it a minute ago, just even looking at the people's barriers to movement and exercise. What I found was people need to get out of that box, get away from all of those or to de-stress those circumstances and issues that created the box so that they can have the movement that will keep them healthy and get them to the events that they want to go on the travel that they want to go to. I see so many people who get to that point of retirement and then their body isn't well enough to do the things they thought they were going to do when they retired. So de-stressing some of those patterns, even in terms of what types of health and wellness things you'll try and use and experiment with to get yourself to the point where you can go and do the fun things.
Absolutely. It's interesting too to see how people of the same age, retirement age basically, respond so differently to retirement, meaning, some are really open to
Right.
new things and changing, and some are, like you said, like stuck in a pattern of like, no, I don't do that. No, I've never done that. No, I'm not going to do that, that kind of thing. Then some, like you say, had certain expectations, and when physical limitations or health or one-time events intervene in their lives, it's almost like I think sometimes they give up. It's like they say, oh, this happened, and so now I can't travel. Oh, this happened, and so now I
Right.
can't try anything new,
Right. I see that with the big picture things that they wanted to do. I see that with I can't go to the exercise class. The things when I know there's work to do from like the GEOTran sensor, the Gems of Excellence side of what I do is when you make a recommendation or you're having a conversation, and most of what you hear is I can't or I can't because. And honestly, Denise, a lot of it comes from, like you said, that one instance in which the doctor said, don't do this. Or there's, well, your feet are just going to hurt. The different things that medical providers say, or belief systems, such as, well, your balance is going to decrease, which is one that you've done so much good work with. And I don't know, you've said this too. It might be a moment in time, but maybe we can take that a different direction. Maybe we can take that a different direction if we move more. And in the GEOTran sense of the word, maybe we can improve that if our brain works differently. The Gems of Excellence actually integrates the brain and gets all parts of the brain firing again, which is pretty interesting, right?
Absolutely.
In
It's very interesting.
neuroplasticity work. See, to me, they go together so clearly. I knew when I did Ageless Grace that I would bring these together.
Yes, it's a whole toolkit that you're providing your clients and your
Yeah.
students of not just one or two things, but a smorgasbord of different things that they can put together in different ways to be able to improve the quality of their life, and maybe, like you said, get out of the box, make some changes, make some choices that can
Right.
be a better choice.
Right.
I really love that you have named your program Vintage Moves. I love that. And so what are you creating now? What's next for Vintage Moves?
Well, first I'm going to tell the story about how the name came to be. So Dick Larson was this cool cat who came to a lot of my aqua fitness classes, and Dick would he'd come in his black gym trunks that had gold pineapples on them that he bought in Hawaii. And he was hilarious. Everybody loved Dick. And he lived 2 weeks past his 99th birthday. And the night before he passed, he was up walking the halls in this facility with his walker and saying hello to everybody. And he went to bed that night and he didn't wake up the next morning. All that to get to, Dick would often go to Hawaii with his family. They had a condo there, and then he would come back. And he'd been gone for a long time at one point, and everybody had started saying, well, where's Dick? And Dick came back, and everybody, so he's doing the laps that we were doing during class. And I said, hey, Dick, how are you? And he said, oh, I'm getting better. And I thought, oh dear, this time he has been sick. So when he came back again, I said, Dick, have you been ill? And he said, kind of offended, no. Why do you ask? And on the next lap, I said, because you said you're getting better. And he cut his eyes and he had this smile and he said, oh, I'm always getting better. So
now that's a great attitude. That's
so
changing the box, right?
Right. So Dick actually lived at a facility, and another woman that came to my classes also lived there. And one day we were talking about Dick, and she said, well, you know, he's crazy, right? I said, Dick Larson is not crazy. And she said, no, he's not crazy. But all the people who live here think he's crazy. And I was like, why do the people who live there think Dick Larson is crazy? She said, because he goes outside and he sings and he marches and he moves his arms and he does all these crazy things out in the courtyard when he can't get to the rec center because of the weather. And I said, well, good for Dick. She said, I know, but people think he's crazy. And I said, Frances, you should go out there with Dick and do all those crazy things, right?
That's right. If you want to live long and have a good, happy life, follow Dick, right?
Yeah. So just like, fine wine or great cheese or classic cars, I wanted a name that emoted always getting better. So what are the moves that are going to keep you moving? What are your vintage moves? And we could be, after I sent you the name, living big after 60, I was like, well, I could have said 50. I could have said 40. Like, we should be finding our vintage moves now rather than waiting until something happens later, right? So
that's one of my pet peeves is people will say to me, for example, about ageless grace brain health, they'll say like, well, I don't need that yet. And I go,
exactly.
Are you waiting until you start to get dementia, until you start to do something about it? Or are you going to do something preventative,
Right.
And you're right. They should be choosing their vintage moves now. Like, what are the things that keep me going and will allow me to be as vintage as possible?
Discover now what types of movement you really like. Try them all so that you'll find the ones that are fun and joyful for you, so that then you can keep rolling them in as you get older. So, Denise, a lot of people will come to class and say, well, I just don't have the energy to do X. Well, you have so much energy and I just don't have that much energy. So energy comes from so many different places, and it comes from, the food you eat, and it comes from the relationships you have, and it comes from the movement of your body. And so at Vintage Moves, we're really excited to create an intensive course that's a 6-month course that is going to work on the timelines in the energy field and restoring choice for your authentic self. And then it's also going to have the nutrition component. My teaching partner in the Gems of Excellence is Dr. Jan Wright, who's a PhD in nutrition and does amazing things with people and their nutrition. And then they'll also get to do the Vintage Moves curriculum that I do through Zoom as well. So we're putting the finishing touches on that and getting ready to announce it. I guess I just did announce it. We haven't really announced it yet, but here it is. It'll be a 6-month program, and there will be courses, the Gems of Excellence courses in there. And then there will be private sessions with myself, private sessions with Jan, and then group coaching to keep the Gems of Excellence work progressing and building it within your practices, and lots of question and answer and developing relationships with the other people. And we're limiting that to 6 people.
So very nice. When will that launch? That's a great January.
It'll be a
great idea.
Yeah, it'll show up in January. I've had a lot of people who come to class and they don't eat well before they come to class, don't want to eat in the morning. And then they don't feel like they can stay full and fully participate in class. And working with Jan, I've learned so much about the digestion and how to support the digestion and what nutrition really supports the digestion so that people can eat appropriately before they work out and get that energy from their food and then be able to maximize what they get from their workout. The other thing that I see that really zaps people's energy is really kind of mentally and emotionally processing things that happened in the past or the last conversation they had with their kids or their best friend and the thing that their best friend talked to them about, and that they're literally processing and using up their energy stores through those emotional processes and mental processes rather than having the de-stressing tools to let those things slide on by. Give them a moment. They're not yours to fix. Separate yourself from them in a powerful way so that you can be at your exercise class, right?
Absolutely.
So
I very often see people in exercise classes, like watching the clock, watching their watch, saying at the beginning of class, I'm going to have to leave 10 minutes early because I have like something else, but it's in 2 hours, but they have to leave early, and so those kinds
or,
of things.
or they have something that's so intense that they have to talk to the people in the class because there's something so big and dramatic and emotional that they have to be able to talk. Now, I'm all about the fun and the connecting with people. I'm not saying you can't talk during class, but I really have been in situations where there's so much of that happening that there's not any movement happening.
Right.
So
that makes sense. Well, the program sounds wonderful of putting it all. Does it have a special name or is it just the Vintage Move program?
it's called Healthy Always.
Healthy Always. I like that. Very nice. And we will let everyone know like how to reach Laura in just a few minutes. We'll talk a little bit more about contact her or reach her or find out more about her programs or about any part of her programs about Healthy Always, Gyms of Excellence, GEOTran, Ageless Grace, whatever it is that she's offering. So one of the things that I was intrigued by when you were writing a summary of what you were going to talk about in this episode is you said, what single big change would you like to see for people over 60? And I'd love to hear about that.
The quick and easy answer, Denise, is I want everyone to have an emergency contact when I hand them the form when they come to that first Vintage Moves class. And it's, through choice, through circumstances, through different things that have happened in life. I have a lot of people who they fill out the form, the waiver form, the liability form, and they literally have no one to put in that blank. And to me, that's heartbreaking. And one of the things when I went to, are you familiar with Dr. Bill Thomas? Mm-hmm. He did the Second Wind tour and he went on a national tour, and I got to watch see his show. And one of the things that just floored me when he said it was that aging is a team sport. How genius is that? Right? Just says it right there in that moment. Aging is a team sport. And so I say to my people, who's on your team? And that we can consciously be inviting people and creating relationships that are supportive and genuine and the correct people to have in our lives so that we have a powerful team to keep us going. It might be a medical doctor. It might be a dentist, for goodness sakes, the right dentist. So the right medical doctor who's really there in favor of your longevity and vitality. So the short answer is I want everyone to have someone that they can list as their emergency contact. The long answer is everything I said at the beginning around choice. Many of the people have been isolated from their families. Many people don't have the emergency contact because their choices have led them away from and the situations they've been in or that their family have been in. And it's not just family, it can be friends too, have led them away from having the relationships that they feel confident and comfortable trusting as they get older.
I love that concept of who's on your team. I really love that that thought and that idea. You remember that one of my dear friends was Dana, and
Oh,
Dana was we always said she was our ageless grace poster child.
I
She
love
left
it.
us at 94 years old
Mhm.
and pretty darn spunky. And she used to say to me all the time, like she was my dear friend for over 20 years. So I knew her when she was quite a bit younger. And she used to say to me all the time, like, um, I keep choosing younger and younger friends as I get older and older because I want someone who has more vitality that will take me along with them in their adventures and their excitement about life and whatever they're doing. She said, I need people like that. She said, she used to make a face and go, I don't want to be around old people. I want to be around younger people.
Right? Isn't that great? She
Yeah.
see, I loved her. I wanted her to actually do remake me style wise, fashion wise. She was such a her clothes were fantastic.
And
Uh,
that was part of her staying young,
yes,
was stay interested in what you're wearing, stay interested in getting dressed every day, stay interested in what's in fashion. That was part
right.
of her
Yeah.
youthfulness.
Yeah. Greg, my husband, actually has he's a sports guy. He's just all about the sports and the teams. And he actually started the whole team concept shortly after we got married. He said, "Well, is that a good teacher or not a good teacher? Is that teacher on the team or not on the team? Is that physical therapist on the team or not on the team? Do we need a new physical therapist on the team?" Like he was all about who's on team Hannah, my daughter, and who's on team Amalia, our other daughter. So um, when uh, Dr. Thomas said that, I was like, yeah, I'm going to latch onto that. It's
It's a
such a
great
great concept.
concept, and it's so easy to orchestrate and do
Mhm.
as you move through your life. I've never thought of it that way. And I love that idea of who's on my team. I have some people already on my team that I didn't know were on my team, but they are. And I'm thinking as you're talking that, oh, there are people I want to add to my team.
Yeah.
Definitely. I'm going to either look for those people or maybe I already know them and I just haven't put them on my team yet. But I love that idea. One
Yeah.
of the things I know that you do, and I can see how having a team does this, is I know you talk a lot about relieving stress and taking the stress out of events that have happened so that it can be tamed. You mentioned that a few times. And so I can see how having a team relieves stress as well. And
Yeah.
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 Are there, is that there other reasons why you focus on stress and relieving stress?
Sure. Yeah. So when we have any version of stress, it generally takes us out of love, forgiveness, and choice. And so love is diminished, forgiveness is hard, and we lose our choice. And those three, you can see how those three components go together. And
Yes.
so when we work on the energy field, the primary tool, well, the most significant tool that we use is called positive points, where we're reinstating love, forgiveness, and choice in the energy field before it becomes a neural pathway. We're reinstating love, forgiveness, and choice. And choice, choosing your team, be conscious and aware. I actually coach my team, my people that I work with all the time, like choose your team. And then to relook at your team and like, you can actually choose that a person gets removed from your team. Now, you don't have to be rude about it, but you might have to remove someone from your team now and then for
Yeah.
any variety of reasons, right?
And stress, I'm sure could be one of those. I mean,
And
some
some
team
people
members
bring more
relieve
stress.
stress and some may bring stress.
Exactly, exactly,
Right.
exactly. Yeah.
Well, tell people how they would get in touch with you, maybe your email address or your website, or how would people find you to learn more
Yeah.
about Vintage Moves and
Um,
the things that you do?
my website is vintagemoves.co. There's not an M at the end. It's just vintagemoves.co. And all the programs are on there that are available now. You can also email me, laura@vintagemoves.co.
Excellent. Very good. Well, thank you so much for all that information. The time just flies by
It
when it's
did.
something interesting like that. It's amazing how the time goes by. So I just want to remind everybody that Laura talks so much about choices, and the whole point of this show, the reason we have Living a Graceful Life, is to remind you that it's never too late to begin making choices to create the life that you want to live. And if you'd like to learn more about Ageless Grace, which gives you a few more choices, you can go to agelessgrace.com and our website, and you will be able to see some video clips, learn about some of our trainers, our programs, our workshops and seminars. And there's even a free class on there that you can sign up for and get to experience a little Ageless Grace. So thank you again, Laura. I appreciate you being here. And I'm going to be thinking about my team now consciously and making some choices.
Yeah,
So
thank you,
thank you for
Denise.
that.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you all for being here this episode. And we'll see you next week.